Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. I'm here today to talk about the books that made me cry, and not the books that made me cry in anger or frustration, because if we start talking about that, then the whole mood will be ruined, so we're not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to talk about the books that made me emotional, that filled me up to the brim, to the point where tears started streaming down my face. Okay, and it feels like I've been doing that a lot lately, so I thought it would be a good idea to do this video after I watched Olivia from Stories for Coffee do this video, and I saw that we had some books in common, and I thought it was a great idea, and I thought it was a great way to tell you about some books that will make you be prepared with a box of tissues handy, because you're going to need them, you're going to run through them. So I watched Olivia's video and I really liked the idea, and I asked her if I could do the same on my channel, and she very kindly said yes. So thank you, Olivia, for that. People, if you're looking for some aesthetic videos, some really well made, well articulated, very soothing videos, then you should definitely check out Olivia's channel. I'll leave the link to her video as well as to her channel in the description box below. So without any further ado, let's dive right into this video and let me share with you all the books that have made me cry. Max. A quick reminder that if you'd like to buy any of the books mentioned in this video, then please use my Amazon affiliate links mentioned in the description box below. It would be of immense help to me. Thank you. So we are going to start off with the most recent books to make me cry. Yeah, this is a book series, a set of books, and I think you might have guessed by now. The series I'm talking about is The Ember Quartet by Sabaa Tahir. If you haven't watched my vlogs for these books, where I lose my mind, where I bawl like I haven't bawled in ages, then you should definitely go check them out. I leave the links here in the description box somewhere. And this series is so wholesome. It has something in it for everyone, and Sabaa Tahir knows how to spin a world of fantasy replete with magic and jinns and ifrits and different people, the power dynamics that are there between different people, and she shows the relationships between a mother and son and friends and different people. There's a lot to process over here, and with every page turned, there's something or the other to hit you so hard. I absolutely love the series so much. I knew when I was reading the second book that this series has become my favorite series of all time, and I would definitely highly recommend this series. Please go read it and be very prepared with tissues, napkins, towel, whatever it is. Put it beside you because you're going to need it to wipe off all those tears. I think the next book is going to be a pretty predictable one, because I haven't shut up about it ever since I started reading it, and I have recommended this, I have gifted this to everyone, like left, right and center, and I feel that everybody should read this and see for themselves what this author's writing is all about and what this particular story is all about. I haven't told you the book. The book is, if you haven't guessed, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This book, it brought me to tears on so many levels at so many points in this book, because this is the story of Nora Seed, who is battling depression, and she wants to die, and something happens that drives her to that, and now she is stuck between life and death, where there is a midnight library complete with books which contain her life stories, which would have been the result of all the decisions that she would have taken, but she didn't take. And she goes through these books and she sees her life laid out in whatever terms that she's seeing in at that moment, and the way the regrets, the love, the self-love that piles up throughout this book. I didn't think I would love this book this much, and I just love that Matt Haig has written this book to show that self-care is the most important form of care and self-love is the most important form of love there is in the world at the moment, at least, especially since we're going through all of this, the pandemic, and there's a lot that's happening in the world right now. And oh my god, I cannot recommend this book enough. And I actually broke down on camera when I was talking about this in my wrap up. I think it was the September wrap up, and I just lost it. Please go read this book. It's phenomenal, to say the least. Next up is a book that I read a couple of years ago, and I remember very clearly that when I finished reading this book, I was gone. And the book I'm talking about is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This was one of my most anticipated reads of all time until I actually picked it up. And then I saw what it is that made this book so great, such a classic. You can consider this book a classic because of the topics that it talks about. It talks about the book thief in the middle of World War II, in the middle of fighting the Nazis. And oh my god, this book, there's so much to process in here. There's so much humanity, there's so much love in the way the author deals with the characters as well as the plot, and how he talks about books as a safe haven. That combination itself is a way to make me go running towards a book, and I did go running towards this book, and then I clutched it and I never let go. And this is a book that will always take, a place in the front row on my bookshelves, because this is that important of a book to me. I don't think I talk about this book enough on my channel, but you should know that this is one of my absolute favorite books, which I would highly recommend. I know this might not work for everyone, but at least give it a try, because if it works, it's just going to be amazing. This list won't be complete if I don't talk about Nikita Gill books, and there are 2 books in this list. These 2. The first is Fierce Fairy Tales, and the next is The Girl and the Goddess. This is the most recent of her books that I've read. When I read this book, I lost my mind. I went and wrote a whole blog post about how much this book means to me because of everything that it represents, and I identified with the main character Paro so much. I did not expect to, and to find myself in her, and I cried like a baby when I read this book. And I feel like you're going to hear this a lot in this video, because especially that's what this is all about. But please do go read this one. I used to recommend this book to everyone, but now I will recommend this especially to Indian women. If you are watching this, I know a lot of you are, but please do go read this book. It's simply stunning. It's a great piece of work. It's a novel in verse, and it talks about an Indian woman and what all the expectations are placed on her shoulders, and it's phenomenal. And Fierce Fairy Tales is Nikita Gill's collection of poetry, which puts a spin on the fairy tales that we've heard ever since we were kids. For example, Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella or whatever we've heard of, and she puts a feminist spin on all of this, and this is simply a classic piece of work. This should be considered a classic. More people should read it, and I would never tire of recommending Nikita Gill's books to you. Next is a book that is, I think, very widely considered as a book that will make people cry, and that is Frederick Backman's A Man Called Uwe or Uwe. This is the story of a grumpy old man who seems to hate everything. That is until a couple moves across from his house. His house, in which he and his wife Sonia lived for years, and now Sonia is not there, she's gone. But the way he treats people, you see at the very beginning that he's like very annoyed with the world, he's irritated with the world, he's irritated with people as well. But there's also a side to him that you wouldn't expect it, and it kind of grows on you, and the whole book is so wholesome. You just want to, jump into the pages and give Uwe a big hug because of the cinnamon roll wrapped in cactus that he is. Does that make sense? I don't know. But yes, this is a book that you should definitely try. It's amazing. This is one of the first books in my active booktubing journey that I remember that I cried. I also have a full video review of this book on my channel from the days when I was very shrill and I used to be too peppy, it feels like. But if you'd like to go check that out, I'll leave the link here as well as in the description box below. Next up is a book that is one of my favorite romance books of all time, and that is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. And this book is so emotional, and I can't even tell you what this is about without breaking down, but I'm going to try. This is a story of Graham and Quinn who find each other when they find out that their significant others are cheating on them with each other, and they connect on that particular evening, but they lose contact for a long time, and then they find each other again, and 7 years later they are married. And how their relationship has changed, how their marriage has affected their love for each other forms the entire story. Like, when I was reading this book, I was at my mom's place and I was sitting, and it was in evening or something. I was having coffee and I was like I made the mistake, not technically mistake, but you get my point, of going back and reading parts of this book again recently, and oh boy, what a trip that was. Because every time you read this book, especially towards the end, it just fills you up and you don't have any say in it. It fills you up and then the tears start just streaming down your cheeks. That's all. Like, you have no control over it. And that is what I love about any book, that it will make you feel those things that you didn't think you would feel. And this is one book that I will always cherish because of how the relationship between Graham and Quinn works. The way they treat each other and the way Colleen Hoover's writing just makes it all so warm, and it just fills you up and makes you feel. It makes you feel. So I would highly recommend this book if you are looking for a romance read. Go read this book. The next book is one of the first books to actually make me cry in my active memory, and that is The Fault in Our Stars. I've read this book 6 times and every single time I've cried. The first time I knew of the existence of this book was when some friends and I went to the movie which had just released. I think this was 2014. I'm not sure which year it was, but I remember crying in the theater towards the end. I just stood up and I'm like, no, because just no. If you know what happens in this book, you know what I'm talking about. It's so different. I'm not talking about it in the sense that I'm not like other girls type, but I just love how much depth John Green has given the teenage characters in this book and the wit and banter that they exchange, and I love that. I must admit that Augustus Waters was my favorite character for a long time, but I know he has his flaws, I know, but he was my favorite character. I can't change that. Like, I did a video about this book saying 10 reasons why The Fault in Our Stars is awesome or something. I think it was 3 years ago, and I'll leave the link here as well as in the description box if you want to go check that out. But this, man, and I know that I will cry again if I read it again. Next up is The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Traffer and Annie Barrows. This is a book that I cried over friendship for, because the friendships in this book are so warm, they are so sweet. This is told in the form of letters. It's an epistolary novel in which the characters are exchanging letters, and I love the connection that you can make between each letter, and you can find out what exactly is going on in the lives of these characters. And Dorsey Adams is like, he's so nice. that would be an understatement, but I love all of these characters except a couple of characters who are just plain mean. So this is a book that embodies friendship, embodies friendly love. What stands out more is Juliet's relationship, friendship with the people that she comes into contact with in Guernsey. And this book makes me want to go to Guernsey right away. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Historical fiction. It's set after World War II. I think it's set in 1946, and I absolutely loved it. And I also have a book review of this book on my channel from the days when I was shrill, like I said, for the other book as well. I leave the link here as well as in the description box below if you want to go check that out. Next up is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is based on Greek mythology and it has Greek mythological characters, Achilles, and his love story with Patroclus. And the way Madeline Miller has written this book, it's so wholesome. It pulls you in, it fills you with all the emotions that she intended it to fill you with, and it is simply one of the most beautiful books I've read ever. Like, Circe is beautiful too, but it doesn't hold a candle to this book because this is that much bigger, it feels like. I don't know why, but that is more important, but this is more emotional. And I felt the pain, I felt the love, I felt the warmth, I felt the chemistry through every single page of this book. I mean, it takes some time for you to get into it, get into the writing style, but once you do, it's just nothing but good things. And there's so much of Greek mythology in here. All of the characters that you might have read about before, they are here. Achilles, Patroclus, Odysseus. And it ends after the Trojan War, and this whole book, it will, I don't want to repeat myself, but it will make you feel things. It will fill you up, and I would highly recommend this book. This is one of my favorite books of all time. If you are noticing a pattern here, if a book makes me feel things, if it makes me cry, then that's automatically going on to my favorite books of all time list. Next up is When I Hit You by Meena Kandasamy, and I have the book somewhere. It's in the row behind, but it is a story of domestic abuse, and the way Meena Kandasamy has written that story, it's spine chilling. It made me cry, and it made me just so angry that some men think that it's okay to do that, it's okay to be so abusive, it's okay to gaslight, it's okay to do all these things. But I love the book because of all the realities, the truths, the pain that it puts forth of so many women across the world, not just in India. And I would highly recommend this book, but please be careful when you start reading this book because there's domestic abuse in all forms in this book, so please take care. Next up is Educated by Tara Westover. This is a memoir, and it talks about Tara Westover's earlier life. She was born into a Mormon family. They were the kind of people who treated women as lesser beings. Like, women needed to take care by covering their shoulders, wear pants that cover the ankles so that boys won't be led astray. So this is a memoir of how Tara Westover cut away from that sort of family and made a life for herself. And my heart broke when I read this account. I mean, family is so many things, but it's also the one thing in the whole world that should be most precious to you, because family brought you into this world. And to see that same family treating Tara Westover like they treated her, and they're still at it, by the way. Tara Westover mentions in her book, I think it was in her epilogue or in her acknowledgements, that they are still going at it and they are still spreading their conspiracy theories, saying that this is the day of reckoning or something. I don't exactly remember the details, but it's there that they are their community of people who believe in that particular thing, conspiracy and all, it's spreading. And I am like, Next is a book that made me cry happy tears, and it was one of my favorite books of 2020, and that book is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This book is so warm, this is so beautiful, it just makes you so happy. You just gush over every single character. Linus Baker works for the some department in charge of magical youth. I forgot the name of the department. He is made to write reports about whether children can live in those orphanages, in the orphanages that he is assigned to or not. Like, he is supposed to be unbiased, impartial, and now he is sent to an orphanage, to the house in the Cerulean Sea, and to find out if the six magical children living there are safe or not. But when he does arrive there, things change so much. And when he meets Arthur Parnassus, the owner of that orphanage, the caretaker of that orphanage, things are going to get a lot different than what Linus ever have imagined them to be. And I love this book so much. I cannot say it enough, I cannot stress it enough, because when I read this book, this was all I could talk about on Instagram as well. Like, every single where I see this book, and every single time I see someone say that they love this book, I just go like, I told you so. Even if I never told them anything, I just go, I told you so. I knew you'd like it. For some reason, I don't know why. This is that sort of a book which you will love reading this book because of how simply written it is. It's witty, it's sharp humor, and it's sarcastic in a lot of places. The characters are so lovable. You just want to squish them and save them and protect them from everything that comes their way. And that is what makes this book such a phenomenal read. I loved it, and I cried tears of happiness and joy and warmth and everything wonderful. Next is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I will leave the trigger warnings for this book on the screen, but the most prominent of which are rape, sexual abuse, and gaslighting. And this is the story of Vanessa Y, who as an adult is seeing that someone is now accusing her former teacher of raping them. She thinks back to her relationship with the teacher. In the present now, Vanessa is questioning her memory of the man, and she has to realize that she is a victim of the man as well. And it's easy for the reader to realize that that's what's happening, but it's not easy for a person in that situation to do that. And as you read this book, can you see these tabs? Every place where there's gaslighting, where there's rape, there's sexual abuse, and there's so much going on. Oh my god, this is an intense read. You have to be very, very careful when you read this book because there's a lot that could trigger you. So please be very careful. This is a debut novel by Kate Elizabeth Russell, and she has taken such an important topic, and she has written this story not just to tell a story, but to also open so many people's eyes to the realities of what might be happening across the world this very right moment. And that makes me even more angry, if you know what I mean. And the helplessness that I felt and the pain that I felt that was emanating from Vanessa, and she didn't even know it made me cry. It filled me and it broke my heart and it filled me with anger. It's sickening that such people exist. But yes, please pick this book up if you can, but please do be careful if you do, because there's a lot that is heavy in this book. There's a lot that could trigger you. The last book on this list is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is the story of two sisters during World War II, and they are so different but also so similar, and they are fighting different battles in the same war in their different ways. And the way it talks about family and the way it talks about how Hitler and his fanatic followers, they ruined so many lives. brought tears to my eyes, and this was especially after a lot of people commented on my video, on one of my videos, saying that Hitler was a misunderstood man, and you should understand everything about politics, and you are not an intellectual, you don't understand things, so that's why you're talking about Hitler. Like, I mean, I'm not saying you don't understand the man. You have to. I'm just saying that there's a lot of wrong that he did. Acknowledge that wrong. The Nightingale is. I read this pretty recently. I don't remember when I read it, but I read this pretty recently. The story is still fresh in my mind, and with every chapter that I went through, it was like a different kind of awakening, because there was so much to learn about human nature as well, and how different two people can be in the same family. And I love Kristen Hanna's writing, and I'm so glad I read this book. So those were all the books that made me cry in my reading journey so far. So which of these have you read? Which ones did you like? Which ones did you not like? Which books made you cry? Which other books made you cry? What did you think of this video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Another quick reminder, if you'd like to buy any of the books mentioned in this video, then please use my Amazon affiliate links in the description box below. It would be of immense help to me. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.